Welcome back to Inside Cowboys Training Camp from Oxnard, California. Tommy Yarrish alongside Mickey Spagnola. Cowboys back at practice today after a couple of days off after their preseason opener. And one of the things that Brian Schottenheimer talked to us about the other day is two running backs who didn't play this past Saturday. Miles Sanders, who's been dealing with an injury, and Jaden Blue, who was newly injured last week, the rookie out of Texas. Here's what he had to say about maybe them coming back this coming week against the Ravens.
I think they're both going to start doing something this week. John, I'll figure it out when I get in there after we have this meeting here. Today's kind of a lighter day. Today's a stay program where we're taking care of their bodies a little bit. So that buys guys that are coming off bumps and bruises to kind of get back healthy, and we'll do a mock a little bit later tonight. But I think both those guys, we should see some significant progress with them this week, and we'll see. But hopefully they can both play in the game.
All right, that sound is brought to you by our friends at Sleep Number. Mickey, when you look at this Baltimore Ravens game coming up and you look at those two names in Jaden Blue and Miles Sanders, and really just the running back room as a whole, what do you want to see there?
Yeah, I'd like to see them on the field. And it sounds like they're getting closer. They got to go through a couple practices this week before they head home. And if they can get on the field, I think Miles Sanders, we really haven't got the chance to see him. A veteran guy that's on a minimum contract, he needs to really show something. Jaden Blue, we got to see what his speed was like, what his acceleration is like at the line of scrimmage. So at least we got that. Now we need to see more, because I do think that before he got hurt, he was at least the third running back, but now we see a couple guys stepping up, and now he's got some competition for that spot.
Right, he has something to prove. The thing with Jaden Blue is his speed is going to separate him from a lot of other guys, and his ability to catch out of the backfield, something that Brian Schottenheimer is certainly going to want to integrate into this offense. We'll see if both of them can get healthy. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at another banged-up room the Cowboys are sifting through right now, and that's the cornerback position. What do we see in the opener, and how can they get better from here? We'll talk about that a little bit more when we come back on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. Tommy Yarrish alongside Mickey Spagnola. All right, Mick, let's talk about the cornerback room for the Cowboys, and we'll start with the present tense. Right, okay. When you look at this room, you look back to Saturday, not the best day for the cornerbacks. You think about the rotation that was out there for the most part. It was Andrew Booth, Robert Rochelle, a little bit of Christian Matthew. What did you see from that room, and how would you evaluate where the Cowboys are at right now?
Well, right now, these guys need some more work, and they'll get a couple of good days of practice this week. They've got 2 more preseason games, so I don't think anything sorted out behind what they project would be their starting 3 or 4 corners. So to me, these guys got a ways to go. I think Booth at times steps up playing on the outside, and you see something, but he's not consistent. I still see the need to see more from him if indeed he's going to make the team, if these other guys that are out with injuries aren't ready to start the season.
And you make a good point there. Consistency is a big thing that the Cowboys need in this cornerback room right now. When I went back and watched some of the tape, I think Robert Rochelle had a better day than I initially thought, especially coming up and tackling in the run game. So that's at least a positive sign, but again, you have to put in the context of, hey, this is a preseason game, so these settings are different than what it would be come September 4th, for example. And speaking of September 4th, it's a day that the Cowboys are hoping to have a little bit more healthy bodies, not just a cornerback, really across the roster. But let's experiment with this. When Trayvon Diggs and the rookie third-round pick Savon Revel are back from injury, what do you think this cornerback room looks like for Dallas?
Well, when they absolutely get back, you got Deron Bland on one side. You will have Kaiir Elam, a part of that top 3 group, along with Trayvon Diggs. Now, who's going to play inside? Deron Bland has an opportunity and has the ability to play outside and then move inside. Kaiir Elam has shown that he can play outside. He didn't play in the preseason game. And then you can add Revel to this when they get back. The key thing is, Tommy, when is that going to be? Will they be back for the season opener? Will they be back at least for game 2 or 3? Because if they're not, then they're going to be put on a reserve return list, and they will have to miss 4 games. So the clock's ticking on those 2 guys for sure. But however it turns out, Elam's part of that top 3, I think.
And absolutely. And you think about if even when Elam comes back and Revel is healthy, which, by the way, Savone Revel was a 3rd-round pick, but you think if he doesn't get injured his senior year of college, his last year at East Carolina, this guy's probably a 1st-round pick. He would have been the top corner on a lot of people's boards.
Look at his size.
Absolutely. He's exactly what the Cowboys like. Tall, long-armed corners. You've seen it in the past. You've seen it with Israel McQuamu recently. That's the type of prototype that they like at that position. So he fits the mold. He's quick. He's got the speed. He's got the intangibles. Now it's just a matter of when you come back from a devastating knee injury like that at a cornerback position, how healthy can you get and how quickly can you get healthy to the point where you can contribute, because he's missing out on important reps here at camp.
Yeah, absolutely, and they kind of ramped him up during the offseason, so he really didn't get to do much by that. But when we talk about a corner that's 6'2", he was standing next to me the other day, and I was like, who's that? He looked big, right? And somebody says, well, that's Revel. And I go, oh, he cut his hair. So anyway, he looks the part as a cornerback for sure.
Now, in our next segment coming up here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp, we'll talk about who needs to look the part this week in practice, maybe who needs a bounce-back week, if you will, after the first preseason game. Coming up next in Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to the 3rd and final segment of Inside Cowboys Training Camp from Oxnard, California, presented by Ford. Tommy Yarrish alongside Mickey Spagnola. All right, Mick, let's close out with this. Who needs a bounce-back week this week in Oxnard to go into Baltimore feeling confident?
I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to stick with Joe Milton. He had an uneven performance in the preseason game, number 1. I think he needs to show a couple things. He needs to read the field quicker. He needs to get the ball out of his hands then quicker, and he needs to be more accurate. He needs reps, right? He hasn't played much football over the past year, 1 game in the National Football League as a rookie. So this is another opportunity this week to get reps. We'll see how many he gets in these next 2 preseason games, but he needs a better performance in practice.
You think about the fact that that was Joe Milton's 5th NFL game, regular season and preseason combined, and 4 of those games have been in the preseason. The lone regular season game coming last year in the last game of the season when the Bills defense was playing their backups for the playoffs. I'll go with the guy who has been around for a while and had a really good year last year for the Cowboys, and Jalen Tolbert. I think he's kind of had an up and down camp with more down than there's been up, and the preseason game you didn't see too much of him, but they tried to get him in space on little bubble screens, and he's just not that kind of player. So how can Jalen Tolbert kind of push himself back into that wide receiver 3 conversation when you've got guys like Kavontae Turpin and Jonathan Mingo really knocking at the door for that spot there? But certainly those 2 really headlining, you would think, the guys that need a bounce-back week this week.
Yeah, and he's got to be more consistent, right? And the one thing we notice, if they're thinking about being part of the number 3 or number 4 receiver, you're going to have to play special teams if you're going to be active, and they put him on special teams for a couple snaps.
That's certainly a way to get a job. So that'll do it for us here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp. For Mickey Spagnola, I'm Tommy Yarrish. Thanks to our friends at Ford, and we'll see you tomorrow from Oxnard.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.